To the breakthrough of the decade. Some said it couldn't be done, but here we are, revolutionizing medicine and making a fortune.
I still remember the look on Robert Chase's face when his phone rang at that restaurant. The smug, untouchable pharma executive instantly transformed into a pale ghost of a man. But before that night of reckoning, I had to lose almost everything, including the belief that my wife still saw me as her equal. My name is Peter Harris. I'm a former investigative journalist and now a stay-at-home dad. For years, I was the man my wife admired until her boss's shadow swallowed our marriage whole. Every morning, I'd wake at 5:30, brew my Earl Grey, and sit in my favorite leather chair. Those were my 30 quiet minutes before the beautiful chaos of parenting began. That Tuesday started just like any other, peaceful, predictable, safe, but life doesn't warn you before it unravels. When my wife, Sarah, rushed into the kitchen juggling calls and data reports, I felt so proud. She'd worked her way up from a postdoc researcher to one of PharmaNova's top Alzheimer scientists. Meanwhile, I'd fallen from a rising journalist to a laid-off freelancer to a full-time parent. We always told ourselves it was temporary. That one day, I'd get back to reporting. But one day never came. Then she announced it over breakfast. "Robert is coming for dinner Friday. Big promotion news," I forced a smile. Robert Chase, her boss. The man who acted like he was humanity's gift to science. From the first day we met, he'd mocked me. "Ah, the house husband," he'd smirked. How modern. It wasn't just his arrogance that bothered me. It was that Sarah never corrected him. Still, I cooked the best meal I could. Ribeye steaks, wild mushroom risotto, a perfect chocolate soufflé. I even wore the shirt Sarah once said matched my eyes. When Robert arrived, he strolled in like he owned the place. "Peter," he said, handing me a bottle of wine worth more than my monthly grocery bill. Always good to see the domestic genius at work, but what came next shifted the ground beneath me. After a few glasses of wine, Sarah, cheeks flushed, was laughing with Robert like they were the stars of a world I'd been pushed out of. "And what did you do today, Peter?" Robert asked, his voice dripping with condescension. I tried to play it off. "The usual super dad stuff. Science fair, ballet class, dinner," Robert laughed loudly. How domestic. And then Sarah joined in drunk, careless. "And Robert here," she said proudly, "is saving millions of lives." Meanwhile, Peter makes lunches. The table fell silent. Her words cut deeper than her drunkenness could ever excuse. I walked to the kitchen, my hands flat on the counter, breathing hard as the truth hit me. My wife no longer saw me. Or worse, she saw me exactly the way her boss did. The next morning, Sarah was mortified. "I didn't mean it," she whispered. Maybe she didn't, but Robert did. And the worst part? I had let myself shrink into the role they made for me. Something inside me snapped awake. The journalist, the investigator, the man who once exposed corruption in City Hall. He wasn't dead, he was just buried. That Saturday, while Sarah was at work, I started digging into Neurox, the Alzheimer's drug her team was pushing into final trials. The deeper I went, the more horrifying the truth became. Negative side effects erased. Patients removed from datasets. Serious reactions mislabeled as unrelated, the mastermind behind it all. Robert Chase. I found 2 versions of the same clinical reports, one for the FDA, perfect, polished, and safe, and one internal, disastrous, dangerous, and borderline criminal. Sarah hadn't seen the discrepancies, or she'd been convinced not to question them, but I couldn't ignore it. I started contacting old colleagues, whistleblowers, and even trial participants. Piece by piece, a picture formed of a drug that could cause heart failure in nearly a quarter of its patients. A drug being pushed to approval for billions in profit. And Sarah was being used to legitimize it. That's when I built my case of 70-page report with every document, every recording, every falsified chart. This wasn't about revenge anymore. I was doing this because people could die. On Friday night, while Robert hosted a celebratory dinner with FDA officials, I sent the report to the FDA, to PharmaNova's board, to major shareholders, and to the American Medical Association. Then I put on my old suit and drove to the restaurant. Robert was mid-toast when I walked in. Sarah's smile froze. "Peter, what are you doing here?" Congratulations, I said calmly. I hear Neurox is the future of medicine, Robert sneered. This event is for invited guests, Peter. Oh, I know, but I figured I should be here. When the truth arrives, right then Robert's phone rang, then another, and another. Around the room, executives and FDA reps began checking their phones. Confusion turned to fury. Panic spread like wildfire. Robert went white. What have you done? He hissed. What any good journalist would do, I said. I revealed the truth. Sarah dragged me outside, shaking. Peter, years of work ruined, my career destroyed. Why would you do this? A drug that causes heart failure isn't a cure, I said. It's a death sentence. Her face crumpled as her own phone buzzed with the news. Neurox suspended, emergency board meeting. Robert on leave. 5 years of my life, she whispered. Gone. And that's when I finally told her, you didn't lose 5 years. You were saved from being part of a crime. The fallout was slow and brutal, but truth always wins. Neurox was halted permanently. Robert resigned in disgrace, and Sarah, she wasn't fired, but she couldn't stay. 6 months later, she took a job with the FDA, determined to make sure something like Neurox never happened again. Our marriage wasn't magically fixed. We fought, we cried, we went to therapy. But slowly, painfully, we rebuilt. One night, Sarah found me stargazing with our son. You know, she whispered, wrapping her arms around me, what you did was the bravest thing I've ever seen. She looked at me and said, you did what a good man does. A real man. And then she kissed me, the first kiss in months that felt like love, not routine. A few weeks later, a letter arrived. I had been nominated for a journalism award. Sarah smiled, tears in her eyes. Guess it's not sitting next to the cookbooks anymore, she teased. Robert lost everything because he chose ambition over ethics. I risked everything because I chose truth. And in the end, the real victory wasn't destroying him. It was rediscovering myself as a husband, a father, and a journalist whose voice still mattered.